This is Geometry Dash. This is me making Geometry Dash with OpenGL. This is me making Geometry Dash with SDL2. Did you actually think I will show the results now? Hey guys, and welcome to another project. So for the last month or so, I've been really obsessing over making a video game, and so in that case, I wanted to make something that would be fun to play and at the same time, it wouldn't be complicated, like Flappy Bird, Snake Game or something of that kind. But those ideas were already made so many times before, and so for some reason, I felt like a Geometry Dash clone would be so interesting to make. So to make a game in general, you need at least one of these ingredients. First, you can just choose a game engine and just slap your sprites/3D assets there and code some game logic and you're done. Or you can make your life a step harder and just use a library that would take care of the rendering pipeline, audio implementation and so on. Or if you really feel like you are determined to start from absolute scratch, then your best option would be to use a graphics API such as OpenGL, Vulkan or Microsoft Direct. Well, in my case, my goal was to deepen my knowledge in C++.
Someone has to f***ing flip the burgers, dumbass!
I knew in Unreal Engine you can use either blueprints or C++, but my brain just didn't accept the idea of using a game engine. Anyway, I decided to work with OpenGL, but after a week of trial and error, I felt like I wasn't making any progress, and so I decided to work with a library that would do the hard work for me. In this case, I went with SDL2 library. So, this is the outline of this project. First, we need to make the game art, or you can just say the sprites. Make a window. Put the sprites in the window. Add user input. Work on the player movement. Add collisions. Code the game logic. Add audio. Add text. Yeah, it's quite a process. So let's break this into small tasks. So for the game art, I simply used Procreate on my iPad. So here I made the player shape, which is this green/blue square. I also worked on the obstacle triangles along with these squares that the player can jump on or dodge them. And of course the background, which is this blue image with random rectangles. Then on Photoshop, I worked on the seamless ground tile. So the size of these images is 300 by 300 pixels and the background is 1920 by 1080 pixels. But these dimensions will be changed depending on the window dimensions. So to start, I first started by importing all the libraries that we will need for the project and then I linked them. So here we have the basic SDL library, the SDL image library, the SDL mixer library, which is responsible for the audio, and the SDL font library, which is responsible for the text, and of course the other necessary libraries that we will need throughout the process of this project. So now if we try to run this project, as you can see, it works without any linking errors. So after it, I just initialized all these libraries and then I started working on the render window class, which will take care of everything that will be rendered to the window. So this class contains all the necessary functions, and by the way, I used the same code structure in this playlist, which was made by the coder Gopher. I really recommend it if you want to learn how to use SDL2. So this function will display the window on the screen by precising the title and the window size. Next, we have this function that takes as an input the path for any texture and then it will return it. And then we have these functions that would just clean and clear the window when we end our program. And finally, we have these functions that will render and display. Simple, right? So in my main script, I just set up those functions and I also worked on the user input in our game loop. So in our game, we only need one key, which is the W key. So when I press W, the player would jump. So just for demonstration, when I press W now, as you can see, it gets detected. Next, I decided to work on rendering the background image. So I added this render background function to my window render class. So basically in this function, I specified that the background texture will be drawn starting from the top left corner of the window and it will have a dimension of 1280 by 720. And then I just called it in my main function and I specified the background image, and now if we run this code, as you can see, the image is set perfectly in our window. So now we need to start rendering game objects in our scene. To do that, that, we will need to create a vector of only two float variables, the x and y, that we will need later to precise the position of each game object. Then I created this game object class that is responsible for the position of game objects and their texture. So basically here all the game objects have one size, which is 300 by 300 pixels, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. But here I put them as 320 by 320 pixels because I wanted them to be a little bigger, and then I rendered them on the screen using this function. So now in the main function, let's start by rendering these game objects. So this is the general pipeline that I'm going to be using. First you identify the texture, next you need to precise the position, and then in the game loop we call the function that renders the game objects on the screen. And also that's where we work on the game object logic such as jumping, gravity, and so on. So I'm gonna start by rendering the player square object, which is this green 2D box. So first we will start by loading the texture, and then I will manually select its initial position using the vector tool float that we just created, and then just render the player square on the window after rendering the background. So after rendering the player, now it's time to work on the player movement. Things like adding the velocity to the player square, making it jump, and add gravity to it. So I first started by adding player velocity, which is literally just incrementing the player position on x-axis, and then I added gravity force to it. So now if I run it, as you can see, the player goes to the right, and it falls due to the gravity force applied to it. This is why we need to determine a ground level so that the player won't fall continuously. And I also added the jump logic, and I added these two booleans that prevent the player from double jumping. So it basically checks if the player is jumping and if he is on the ground. Well, if he's not jumping and that he is on the ground, then he can jump. Otherwise, he can't just double jump in the air like that. So here when I play the game, everything works as intended. However, it's time to make the camera follows the player when he moves. So to do that, I simply added a new parameter called camera X. So basically here I relied on the parallax effect, which is a visual trick that video games use. So let's take this footage that I took during my trip to Greece this summer. So basically, as you can see, the front boat is static. However, the camera is moving to the right, or maybe the camera is static and the entire scene here is moving to the left. It's practically the same thing, right? So that's what I did here. For all the game objects in the scene except the background, I simply subtracted the game object X position by the camera's X position. And don't mind that multiplication by 4, it's just for scaling purposes. And then in my main loop, I specified that the player speed is equal to the camera's, and when the player's X position exceeds 100, the camera starts moving to the right. Or you can simply say that the game objects will be rendered going to the left of the screen, and the player will always appear at the same position because the player.x position and camera X will always give the same result since they both move dependingly. And now as we can see, the player X position is moving to the right, however it's always rendered at the same spot in our window. So when playing Geometry Dash, I realized this smooth nice rotation effect that adds so much to the experience, and I was like, this should be implemented in my game as well. So what I did here was, during a jump, I calculated the rotation progress to determine how far the rotation has advanced and made sure it doesn't exceed a certain value. Using this progress, I interpolated the player's current rotation between its existing angle and the target rotation, or you can simply say the rotation that the object should rotate to. So to calculate the target rotation, I simply just added 90 degrees to the current rotation value. I then updated the player's rotation accordingly. So once rotation progress reaches the limit, which indicates that the rotation is complete, I set the jump state to false and reset rotation progress to 0 to prepare the system for future jumps and rotations. And now if we run the code, as you can see, the rotation is smoothly working. So now to render the ground tiles, so it's basically the same process as rendering the player square. However, instead of specifying manually the position of each tile, I just came up with this for loop, which will generate 63 tiles next to each other, and then I just rendered them on my window. I also added some specifications, like if the player reaches a certain destination, he would stop moving, and also he wouldn't be able to jump again. This is basically when you reach the end line. And now if we play this, as you can see, it works as intended. After that, I just added some obstacle squares that the player should dodge or jump on. The process was the same as rendering the game objects, but here I had problems with automating the generation of these squares in my level. It just didn't look right, and it felt so random. And as you know, in Geometry Dash, the game is mainly focused on momentum, and it just feels like every obstacle in the scene is placed with precision, not randomness. So what I did, I created this vector, and I just started generating these obstacle squares, one by one, one by one, one by one, one by one, one by one. So after the obstacle squares, I added obstacle triangles, literally the same technique, just changing their positions. And now this is the level we have so far. So I think it's time to work on the real stuff, which is coming up with a collision detection system. Well, I got to be honest here, okay? Well, first, this was like the hardest part of the project so far, and I almost gave up on everything because of this. Like, I was at the point of just having an existential crisis, and then with one Google search, I stumbled upon this website that at first sight it just looked overwhelming, but honestly it has everything you need to understand how collisions work. So this function, check collision, checks if the rectangles are overlapping or not on X or Y axis. If they are not, then return false. If one side is overlapping with another, then return true. That's pretty much it, like that's what this code does. And then in my game loop, I checked if the square obstacles are overlapping with the player, and then I basically worked my way through the logic with conditional statements. For an instance, when the player overlaps with the square obstacle vertically, it will first check the player's position and see. For example, if the player's Y position is 120 or higher. By higher I mean down below, because remember, when rendering a window, the top left coordinates are 0, 0, but as we go down, the Y value starts increasing.
Please keep that in mind.
So if y-axis is equal to 120 or below, it will automatically set it to 120 to prevent the player from falling from the level, and then I hard-coded the rest. For example, when the player is on an obstacle, his Y position will change depending on the height of that obstacle. I know this is not the ideal solution, but since it's a small game and we only have like 3 different heights for the player to jump on, I think this is not a bad idea. At least it's getting the job done for now. But when the player collides with a square obstacle horizontally, they stop, which works as expected. Similarly, for triangle obstacles, I've implemented a similar approach. However, when the player collides with a triangle along the y-axis, they also stop. I mean, logically speaking, a square doesn't slide on top of a triangle, right? However, I had to add these 2 devil forks left and right because I needed to fill that 300 by 300 pixels. With that out of the way, now it's time to work on my favorite part, which is adding audio for our game and just make it feel more alive. So the music in Geometry Dash is what makes the game so dynamic and energetic. It's like the topping on the pizza. It just adds that nice flavor. Why am I talking about pizza, bro? I don't know. Well, so I have 3 different audios that I'm going to use here. First, we have a background music that I got from the NCS No Copyright Sounds record label, because first of all, their music is non-copyrighted, and also it fits perfectly with the Geometry Dash type of beat. Also, I used the famous laughing sound that would just bully you for failing, so please don't fail. And then there is this XQC clapping sound that I had to use when you finish a level. So the background music will start playing as you start the level, and it will stop when you lose. However, when you lose, the laughing sound will start blasting in the background instead. And then if you are skilled enough and you made it out of the level without colliding with any obstacles, then in that case, clap sound will play. So now let's try this. So first we will try to fail on purpose and see how that goes. Then let's just finish the level. Now this is the last thing left to add before that we are done here. So I want to add a counter that would count the player's progress. So to do that, I just did some basic mathematics that would count the percentage of the progress depending on the player's x-axis position. And just like that, we have the counter. but I want the percentage counter to be displayed on my screen. To do that, we need to use the font library that is part of the SDL. So I made this function that generates a texture that allows the text to be rendered on the screen. That's pretty much it. Then I loaded my font and chose the size and gave it an epic color, and then I linked the progress count with a font, rendered the text, and that's it. And now this is the final result that you all been waiting for. Alexa, play some Geometry Dash music. By the way, I need to precise some things here. The game may have some glitches and bugs, like I'm pretty sure you can easily find a glitch and break the level if that's something you like doing in video games. So this is why I'm posting this project on my GitHub. I'm only gonna post the code, not the game file, because as I said, this was just me learning C++ and the purpose wasn't to make a game that would go viral, you know. So yeah, with that being said, go check my GitHub, inspire yourself, try finding bugs and fix them if you can, and do whatever you wish actually. Yeah, thanks for watching and I will see you in the next project.